Greetings, BlaXit family. Greetings. I hope you can. Oh, no microphone. I hope you can see and hear me. Greetings, greetings, greetings. I might have to slightly adjust this. 1 second, because the light's a little bit glary. So let me try and move over. Okay. How are you today? How are you all? I hope you're all well. I'm just putting in the camera. Sorry, I'm putting in the microphone, so just bear with me. Let yourself be known in the comments while I adjust myself. Okay. Can you let me know if you can see and hear me? If that's okay. I want to remind you that the time has gone forward. So GMT 3 o'clock is the time for our live. So I hope you remember that 3 o'clock GMT is the time for our live. But welcome to all of you that are here. Welcome, and thank you for joining BlaXit. I appreciate you. Hang on a sec. Let me just make sure that the camera is clean, so you're getting a clean shot. Let's have a look. That's a bit better. Oh, what have I just done? 1 second. Hang on. Oh. Okay, that looks better. Okay, that's a bit clearer, isn't it? Willie Rivers! Hey, you're first. Welcome. Thank you for joining BlaXit today. Thank you so much. Can you see and can you hear me? Are you getting a clear image of me? And can you hear me? Just let me know. I'm just readjusting the microphone. So, Lakashani, Lakasham, how are you? Welcome. Willie, how are you? Welcome. Nice to see you here. Thanks for joining. You remember last week we did have a very long, if you were here with us last week, we did have a very long live, and I'm so glad that you are here with me this week. The cowrie shells in my hair. Hang on. Just obscuring my sight, just moving them out of the way. So welcome to BlaXit. If you are new to BlaXit, welcome. You are welcome here. This is the home and, if you like, the launch pad for all of us, diasporans and Africans alike on the continent and outside, or inside or outside of Africa. For those of us who are seeking reparations, for those of us who are seeking repatriation, and those of us that are gathering and learning and changing to our own African mind emancipation. I'm Nyancho Kajabi, aka Juliet, and I am the founder and CEO of BlaXit. And BlaXit is about the exits of the Black people. Okay, that BlaXit, that exit. Just the same way they had Brexit, we have BlaXit, and this is the original BlaXit. Okay, so it's not BlaXit this or BlaXit that. It is just BlaXit, BlaXit, and I own the word mark, and I also own the trademark. Okay, so this is the original BlaXit, and I am the CEO and owner. Okay, and I would like to welcome you, and it's about the exodus. Okay, it's about our exit from the West back to the best, and that is Africa. I'm of the firm belief, and it is my mantra, that the only way to eradicate racism is to leave it behind and come and live with your own kind. And that is exactly what I have done. This broadcast is coming to you from West Africa. That's right. This is where I live. This is my permanent homestead. And this is where I've been living permanently since 2019. And so glad I made the jump. Yes, I was born in England, born in the UKKK, and, left, thankfully, to find a new life and a new lease of life, thankfully, here in Africa. So let me say hello. I think that's Hadassa 70. How are you? Lisa, how are you? Okay, thank you. You can see and hear me, thank you. And yeah, you're great. Oh, that's good to know. I do miss our conversations. And also Lizik, okay, Lisa, Malinkum Salam. Okay, so Nangadef, how are you? Yeah, I've been Yardi. How are you? So just saying hello in and how are you in Mandinka and also in Wolof. Yeah, I'm Jamarek. I'm well, thank you. Baraka, thank you. So yes. Anyway, last week was a really intense show, and you know what? I got so much from that. And I did say that I would come back with more information, and indeed I have. I am not going to disappoint you. I have to actually read these figures out because of what the amount was. So do you remember when we left off, if you were here last week, if you wasn't, we were talking about the AU decade of reparations from 2026 to 2036. Okay, I don't know if you were here last week, but if you wasn't, we're talking about reparations. We're talking about reparatory justice. You see, we are the only group or race of people on this planet that have been through the transatlantic slavery for and had such abhorrent torture for over 573 years, which makes us a very unique and special place because we were displaced, okay, from whence we came from, our native lands, and we were human trafficked, okay? We were prisoners of war. We were forced and taken against our will into debauchery, torture and brutality and ultimate death. Separation from our families, from our communities, from our cultures, rebranded, renamed, and made into free labor battery, enslaved Africans to build the West. Okay, so we were talking about that and I didn't quite finish. It was a very long show, nearly 3 hours, and I didn't finish because I still had more information I wanted to share. So some of today's program is going to be on that topic, but I am going to say that part of our reparations has to start with us. Okay. So I want to firstly start off with saying hello and thank you to our mod. Our moderator today is Kafre. So Kafre is my son, and he's just 14 years old. So please, any profanities, please keep them away. Any negativity, please keep them away. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we go into the live. For the comment section is that this is a channel which is dedicated to our liberation, our inspiration, our upliftment, and our enablement, and our self-determination, and our success, and becoming the people of our nation, okay? And for our nation as well, okay? And for our freedom, for our salvation, okay? Exodus is not something that is happening by mistake. It's happening by force. Some might say divine force. Some might say this is the breaking of generational curses. Our ancestors are being heard. They are not going down without a fight. So we are here to share insights about our liberation, about our freedom, also about what we do. We actually help you to come home to Africa, and we have helped so many people. I think it's thousands now. I've kind of lost count. It was so many. I did have a tally that I had in a book and a notebook, and unfortunately got wet during rainy season. So I don't want to make up figures. I would rather wait for it to see dry. It kind of, the ink blurred. But anyway, we have helped thousands, literally thousands of people. to leave the West and come back to Africa. And we want to help you do the same. We help via land acquisition. We ensure that you can get land at low prices, low prices. And we've been doing this for many years. This hasn't started now. This is something that we aim to continue with. And I'm very proud to say I've seen people who have come here. They have, not just here, but in other parts of Africa as well, from Kenya to Ghana to Tanzania to South Africa, all across, okay, Senegal, who have come, they've established their businesses, they've established their lives, they've built their house, you know, they put their children in school, they started their life and restarted their life, because the West gives us the impression like this is almost impossible. But the truth is that it is not. Yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, and it is the best decision I made. I made a show. We had a program, what was it? I think it was just a few weeks ago, where we showed that if I would have stayed in England for those 25 years, I would have been £648,000 worse off than if than if me coming here, obviously, and building my house instead, pulling out of the mortgage, selling the property, and coming here, I was much better off. Okay, now I'm first gen born in England. Okay, both my parents were born in the Caribbean, and they both come from parents which of course come from the cane plantations and enslavement, and they were displaced, taken from Africa. And one of the places that I know that my parents were taken, my great ancestors were taken from, was the Gambia. That's what I was told by my grandmother, and I absolutely believe it. And this is where I am now. So I am broadcasting. So I've come full circle back to where they took my ancestors from, and broken that generational curse of what they told us that the West is best. No, it's not. And come back to Africa, come back to fresh food, come back to, you know, free living, come back to living amongst my own people, come back to a state of mind where I don't have to live with racism and discrimination. I've come back to finding myself, finding my soul, finding my roots, finding who I am. And that is so important, because you don't know who you are, especially when you don't know where you're from. Okay, and I did put out about African ancestry, as I promised. I put it out on the community page. So if you're not sure and you want to know about where you're from, the most reliable service that I know about, that people have had great results from, has to be African ancestry. So do your DNA test. I know a lot of people have been scaremongering, you know, but please do not. They're just trying to put you off so you don't know where you come from, so you don't know your roots. But there's nothing more exhilarating than knowing where you're from, even the percentage also of where your DNA, scattered DNA due to slavery, is from also. So I engage with you. I want to say hello to Wayne Denny, the deaf boss. How many countries do you directly related to in the motherland? Wow, a lot. I haven't got my list here, but it is many. The highest amount of DNA I actually had was from Nigeria, believe it or not. So, and also Gambia, obviously, and they put it as Senegambia. And also from Ghana, yes. Also from Chad, if I remember rightly, and also I think from Ivory Coast and some other nations. So I'm mostly Ghanaian in your DNA. Okay, that's Hatta 70. Oh, so Tanglos, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'll just say XYZ there. Yeah, and Wayne Denny said wonderful, same as my hubby. Oh, lovely. So yeah, that was wonderful. But I also have ancient Egyptian DNA from Ramesses IV. So you are able to trace all the way back. Okay, Ramesses IV. And so yes, I could say, well, I'm royalty. You know, I always had this feeling that especially when I went back and was with the Nubians in ancient Kush or Kushite, what they now called Egypt. I had such a connection there. I knew that some of my ancestry was there, and I wasn't wrong. Also, the ancient Jews as well. I think they're called Ashkenazi Jews. Yeah, they're actually black. There you go. So don't let anybody trick you, because it's also in my DNA. Also, okay. So also, you know, there were the European traits, as you always have as well. I'm not going to pretend that they weren't there, you know. But of course, overwhelmingly, it was African DNA. And so please do, you know, find out about your composite, your DNA composite. Very important to you finding out. And it gives you that sense of confidence, because one of the things that ethnocide is when you lose your heritage, when you lose where you're from. And part of what I want to talk about today, I still want to go back to sugar and slavery, okay? And I did promise you some information, sugar and slavery, London, sugar and slavery. We talked about that last week, and we didn't quite finish, even though I had been on the topic for quite some time. I do want to talk about the now amount of money, which is 22. Let me get it right. It's 3 billion. Okay, let me say it again, because I want to get it right. I want to tell you the figure that I promised you. Okay, so I did the research and I found out. Okay, so the figure, if you wasn't here last week, sorry, we're talking about reparations. And so we went back to talk about the compensation that was paid from the compensation fund that was formed by the Treasury in the UK to pay compensation to the enslavers for the loss of what they call property, their chattel, which of course was our enslaved ancestors. And if you're from the Caribbean and even the Americas, some of this applies to you, okay? Even Charleston. Okay, so if you're thinking, oh, you're in America, it doesn't apply to you. Yes, it does. Okay, yes, it does. And Virginia and other areas to New York. Yes, it does. It applies to you also. And also everybody in the Caribbean, it applies to you. So this figure is 3 billion. Do you remember I told you I would convert the 20 million paid in compensation in 1834, the compensation that was paid in 1834 that they claimed and they got. I also got a Freedom of Information letter that I'm going to try and share on the community page if I don't read it verbatim, so that you can also get the links and information that I got access to when asked about tax refund and information. And so what has occurred to me, let me tell you this figure before. I'm so excited, I'm gabbling on. But what has occurred to me, what is very, very important, is that if they could make a fund then, why can't they make a fund now? Okay, so this money should really be coming to you, but I'm also going to talk about manumission. Manumission is very, very, very important, and it's not talked about enough, okay? So I'm going to discuss manumission and the various forms of manumission, and I'm going to talk about the fact that that manumission should also be repaid and refunded. And the thing is that the information about many of these claims still exist today. So there is evidence, okay? There is evidence in Kew in England where they actually hold the documents, okay? And it comes under a file which is called T71S. So if you want to go and research yourself, you can go to Kew, where they have this information. The Kew information files are there at Kew, okay? So, and I will share all this information as well. But anyway, so 46,000 slave owners, okay, in the UK. Let this sink in, okay? Let me have a sip of my herbal tea, one sec. It's supposed to cleanse your system, but it doesn't taste awfully nice. Anyway, but so 46,000, let's say, thieves, racketeers, and owners of enslaved Africans, 46,000, okay, in England, and 40% of them were women. So for all of you bros who like to go and chase after those snow bunny hoes, right? I shouldn't say that, should I? Juliet. Yeah, just to remind you that 40% of the people that owned our ancestors who were enslaved were women, white women. Okay, so I'm just letting you know. Okay. So don't think that there was some innocence there. 40%. Many of them were widowers as well, and business owners. And in fact, the majority of the people that enslaved our Africans came from Scotland. Okay, came from Scotland. And weirdly enough, one of my family names is Holness, which is a Scottish name. So just like Andrew Holness, who's the Prime Minister of Jamaica. Yeah, so my great grandmother was Eleanor Holness. Okay, just so you know. Okay, this is how deep the rabbit hole goes. And when you go into these files, I did share the link, and I'll share it again, to the UCL database where you can put in your family names and also find out about what they were paid for your family, maybe your ancestors that was from that particular parish or that particular country. And it covers loads of different countries in the Caribbean and some parts of America, even up to Mauritius. Okay, so 46,000 of these people who owned our ancestors, right? They got, in today's money, 2025, so I'm converting it from 1834, which was 20 million, into what it would be worth now, okay? And what it would be worth now is 3 billion, yeah? This is the compensation that they were paid for loss of us during the abolition of slavery, okay? So it was 3,322,015,081 pounds. I'll say it again, okay? So the compensation that they would have got if they were to be paid today, would be a 3 billion. Let me make sure I said the word billion, because sometimes I get million and billion confused. Right, so 3 billion. I want you to remember this figure, because we have to get back this amount of money as part of our reparations. 3 billion pounds, okay? So 3,322,000,000, right? 15,081 pounds. Mod, put it in the comment section for me, please. Okay, so that's 3,322,015,081 pounds. That was the compensation that 46,000 of these horrid people got. Okay, for enslavement of our ancestors. This is the compensation that they received. Okay, this is the compensation that they received. Okay, that is what it is worth today. And the thing is that I then wanted to follow up to find out how it worked, because it was seen as in one place when I researched it through the HRMC. They have got a Freedom of Information letter, okay, which I will post on the community page for you to read their response, okay? So in one sense, they're saying that this was a fund. And in another sense, they're saying that it was a loan, okay? So it wasn't like a tax paid. So it was funded by the taxpayer up until, in the letter they say 2014, but in other places they say 2015, okay? So that means that Nyancho Kajabi, okay, was paying taxes to the HRMC okay, to Her Majesty's taxes, okay, her treasury, to pay compensation to those people that enslaved my ancestors. So it bears reason that we should be able to now claim for a fund to compensate us. And there's also a claim to be made in manumissions, okay? Now, if you don't know what manumissions is not the same as emancipation, okay? It's different. So emancipation is like when the government's now declared in 1833 the Abolition of Slavery Act, okay? I'm going to talk about some bits in this book because there's some real good parts that I wanted to share with you, and some images of families being torn apart and what they actually did, because it's very, very important that we look at the effects of enslavement on us today, because it is still affecting us today. There's no doubt about it. The trauma is still there with us, and even in some of the acts and so on that we do, okay? Because even in this book, it talks about the techniques of control that they used upon us that was handed down, and the whoopings and the floggings. I didn't say whoopings, sorry. Floggings, because that is the correct term that they used, okay? So I do want to talk about that. I don't want to get too graphic and, make you run away from it, but we have to discuss this because it's an important part of the reparations. It's an important part of our claim. It's an important part of what our ancestors had to endure, and we shouldn't run away from it, okay? And don't let them tell you that this is in the past, okay? Don't let them tell you that ever in your life. It's in your DNA, it's in your DNA today, okay? It's in your DNA today, because they don't want to talk about, they never stop talking about their issues. They never stop talking about whether it's a Holocaust, whether it's World War I, World War II. They never stop talking about it, okay? They make so many films about it. They, when it comes to their day, they have public holidays, etc., etc. The rant, okay? So basically what I am saying is that for the decade of reparations, we all have to be involved. Okay, this is not just about the AU. We all have to actively, be a part of this. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, now one of the areas that we haven't spoken about has been manumissions. Okay, so manumissions is when you're released, okay, from slavery, and you pay for your own freedom, okay? This is when you paid for your own freedom. Now, I don't know if you know that, but during slavery, they used to rent us out, okay? So if an enslaved African had a particular skill, they would rent them out. I will even post one of the adverts in the community page for you to see. They would rent us out to other enslavers, okay, for a fee. Will it be 10 shillings, 2 shillings, what have you, for the hour, okay? And in order for that enslaved person not to revoke, to rebel, to resist, to run, and to elope, what they would do, and to escape enslavement, they would promise them a percentage of the money. And that money, they know, would come back to them for the enslaved person to then pay for their freedom. This is how wicked and abhorrent and evil these people were. Okay? I shouldn't say were, I should say are. Okay? I'm talking evil. Okay, now if you remember last week, I'm going to come back to last week when we were talking about the Windsors. We were talking about the British so-called royal family, okay? And I don't know if you noticed that on the news on Tuesday, someone was stripped of their title of prince. because of his lewd, sexual, deviant behaviors. Okay? Some people would call it, what do you call it? Pedophilia and other things. It wasn't just that. So as you know, the so-called Prince Andrew is no longer a prince. So this is the time that we need to go and hit the Windsors, because as I proved in last week's show, if you didn't watch last week's live, please go back and watch it. I know it's long, but I give so much evidence to show the connection between the royals and their involvement in the slave trade. In fact, the benefits that they got from the slave trade, I showed how impoverished England was before the slave trade and how much money they made from tobacco, how much money they made from sugar, especially sugar. And I ended saying that we should, stop eating sugar. Okay, we should boycott it. And so I spoke about it, and lo and behold, I talked about, how, there will be a price to pay and how our ancestors are not sleeping. And indeed, so be it, he was stripped. So he was stripped for what he did. So what about what they did to us? What about what their history is and their involvement is in slavery? What about the royal family paying for what they did to us? We are owed. They owe us. Make no mistake. Make no mistake, they owe us. What about all the things they took from Africa? The gold, the diamonds, the jewels. What about all of the lands, all the territories, the colonies? They owe us. And it is time for payback. Okay, it is time for payback. So when I saw that, was I duly pleased? Oh my goodness, let me sip on my tea. I don't like it, but I have to sip on it. All for good health to you, right? Good health to you. Now, I'm not a person who celebrates anybody's downfall, but when it comes to people who are responsible for the slave trade, I would definitely sip on my tea. Okay, I would definitely sip on my tea. Okay, by whichever means necessary, they need to pay up. Okay, they need to release, and we need to do this. Like I said, I did watch a certain lawyer from America who had made the claim, and also Dr. Milana, who I am hoping I can have as a guest. I wanted to make a program all about his life. This man is so incredible. He's been on BlaXit before, and I'd like to welcome him again, because he is now an installed king in Ghana. How amazing is that? He's an installed king, and he has his own kingdom. So I would like to talk about that, and also to share how you can be a part of his kingdom. And I think it's over 500 acres. Okay? Is it? No, 50,000. I think it's 50,000, sorry. I think his own personal allotment is 500 acres, but I think the whole amount is 50,000 acres. That's how big the kingdom is. Okay, and that's well deserved, because he has been out there working and bringing us together for a long time. Okay, and he came up with a figure with lawyers and other people that it was 777 trillion is owed in total. 777 trillion in today's money is owed to us in reparations. But this amount that I mentioned today, the 3 billion, okay, is based on the 800,000 enslaved Africans that they were paid compensation for. I'm going to say it again, 46,000 enslavers were paid 3,322,015,081 pounds in compensation for 800,000 enslaved Africans. That's women and children, okay, and men, okay. That doesn't include the other ones which they threw over the ship. They threw them into the sea to perish, okay. That's what they did. And so I want to talk about this because it's so important with regards to us making this all-important claim for reparations. And I do want you to follow CARICOM. I want you to follow all of the organisations in the UK, the reparations organisations in the UK, all over the world, that are now coming together in order for us to make this claim. And I want all of the African leaders, the leaders of all of the 54 African countries, to now, wake up and shake up. And, there were only 2 countries, I think, that were not were not badly affected by slavery. But it doesn't mean that they still can't all come together in order to make this claim. All leaders, okay? All leaders, it's time to take your head out of their colonial arses and get to work, okay? I know it sounds crude and I'm not being rude, but I'm saying our heads have been buried in the sand for too long, and it's time that we had these reparations. High time. All African leaders, all Caribbean leaders, okay? Leaders from Melanesia and Brazil, from everywhere that we have been affected by slavery. It's time for us to all come together in order to, during this 10 years of the AU year of reparations, for us to now be able to have not a claim, but a demand. Okay, a demand, because when you make a demand for payment, you aim to get it. When you make a claim, you're requesting. We're not requesting. Okay, this is owed and overdue. So I was talking about the manumissions, and I didn't realize. Okay, so if you're just joining, welcome to BlaXit. I'm Nyancho Kajabi, your host, aka Juliet. I am the founder and CEO of BlaXit. BlaXit aims to get you back to Africa. We help you to get your African land, which is your birthright, which is you are entitled to. We do it as cheaply as possible. We try to get you settled. We will do the paperwork, help you to do all of your paperwork, your residency, your driving license, your bank account, your TIN number, which is your tax number, right? Help you to get settled, okay? We will help you, okay? Help you to complete those documents with regards to your land ownership. Remember, Gambia is one of the few countries in Africa where you still own your land in perpetuity, okay? So please, and remember, there are still plots available. I'm going to check because I haven't checked my inventory this week properly, but there are still the $1,000 plots available so far as I know, and the $1,500 plots available, okay? They are still available to my knowledge. Okay, so do not hesitate. Those are in Bussorah. Bussorah is the BlaXit Eco Village. It is the only Kabilo here, and the largest Kabilo, which means area, granted by the Alcalo. So BlaXit has its own area granted by the Alcalo, which we call the BlaXit Eco Village. Okay. I didn't call it Village of Return or anything like this. I called it BlaXit Eco Village because BlaXit in of itself is the return of blacks, the exit from the West back to the best, and eco because I want us to go back to nature. Okay, village which has over 565 plots, I believe. It might be more now, but anyway. So there are some plots available there, okay? Some extended plots are available there. So I was saying, so we can help you do that. If you wondered what BlaXit do, that's what we do, okay? And I'm also a business developer, so I can help you to develop your business so you can live here and sustain yourself, because it is all about entrepreneurialism, okay? Yes, some people do come here and get jobs. I have seen people get jobs. I've even recommended people for jobs, Okay, yes, they are here. Are they going to be the same standard of salary that you were living on in the West? No, they're not. Okay, have I helped people to establish their businesses? Have I promoted their businesses? Have I marketed their businesses? If you've been watching BlaXit over the last 6 years, you will know absolutely, of course, I do. Okay, and of course, I not only do that, but I do a lot of community projects, and I still do them till today. And irrespective of, the smear campaigns, irrespective of the lies and, the disinformation agents, they're out there. CoinTrail Pro didn't die, okay? They still have black people, what we call black shots, okay? And if you want to know what a black shot is, if you listen to my story about Taki a few weeks ago, and Taki was an enslaved African who was brought to Jamaica, and he was able to kill 60 with his team of people, able to kill and slaughter 60 slave owners on plantations in Jamaica. Okay, and then he was shot by one of his own, because what the Army and Navy did was that in order to get pay, they would entice people by saying that they will buy their emancipation by joining the Navy or the Army, and they would then do that to get their money to buy the emancipation, the manumission for their own children and for their, for example, enslaved wives. So it was like that, and then they would use them to go and chase after or to apprehend enslaved Africans that were then on the plantation that were looking to rebel or to leave. So do you see how they did it? Pure wickedness. It's a circle of pure evil. Okay, and they would torture them. They would whip them almost to death. Okay, so this is what they did. So manumissions is complicated. Okay. So when a lot of people talk about, you did this to your own. No, it was complicated. It wasn't simple. It wasn't straightforward. Do you understand? It wasn't straightforward. It's like someone sitting there with, a GUN in their hand saying that I'm going to, KILL you, because this is YouTube now. So KILL you or unalive you. Okay. And they put one in your hand. And they say, now I want you to put that to your temple and pull the trigger. If not, I'm going to do it for you. That's exactly the position that they put us in. Okay, so don't get it twisted, and I don't want to hear it. So yes, there are black shots still out there on YouTube trying to shoot people like me down that's trying to bring you back to Africa. Okay, they will come out with lies and deception. Okay, they will do anything to try and smear our reputations and character assassination. I've even seen them try to do it to Dr. Arakana, and I'm just like, the woman's doing her work. She's out there like in Burkina Faso. She's doing her thing. Why would you try and do this to the woman? She's trying to do her work. You understand? She's just trying to do her work to be of service to us. Why would you do that? And this is what they do. They go out there and they go on YouTube and they try and say they're this, they're that, they're this authority, they're that authority, but they're talking crap because they didn't even interview me before they came out with their rubbish. They didn't even do their proper research before they came out with their rubbish. They didn't even ask me anything. So how are you going to make a program? You've got no idea. You haven't done your research. And the one thing that I do, right, is that I do my research. Is very important. Even if I have to read 1,000 books, not 1,000, that's exaggeration. But if I have to read, 5 books to research for today's program, if I have to go on so many sites, I will do it. Why? Because I want to give you information that's reliable, not hearsay talking down about people, not hearsay bringing people down. If you ever see those sites where they're sitting down bringing people down, come off it, because they're just low vibrational. BlaXit is high vibrational, high frequency, right? High power. At the end of the day, it's about enabling us to move forward, to progress, and to get what is rightfully ours. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and say this person's that. What is that? What are you doing? Have you got nothing better to do with your life? You understand? It's either you're helping us to progress, or you're destroying the progress. Which one is it? Because you can't have it both ways. You understand? I even had one person become so obsessed with me, they made like 52 programs. Like, why? My life isn't even that interesting. Why? You understand? But what I'm trying to say is that is what they're going to do, okay? So don't let them do it. If you see another smear campaign, just ignore it, okay? Because right now I'm bringing you true knowledge and true information, okay? And they will pay your own to do it. This is what I'm trying to say, them black shots, okay? They shoot at their own people. They shoot down their own people. They try and destroy their own people. You understand? Them black shots, that's what they do. Them traitors, them liars, them destroyers. Yeah? And they've always been out there. I want to read your comments for a section before I get into the rest of this. But I did want to show you the figures that I said I would get. So it was 800,000. Okay, they were compensated for 800,000. I didn't have the information last week, so I had to go and do my research. And it was 46,000 slave owners of enslaved Africans. And the compensation, like I said, was 3,322,015,081 pounds. Okay, so I got that information for you, and I need to send it down. Okay, so well done for doing your DNA testing. I'm seeing in the comments that some people have gone back and done their DNA testing. It's very important because we need to make that claim, especially of ethnocide genocide. Okay, we need to make that claim. It's very, very important. Okay, wow, how do you do that search? Back to Ramesses. Oh, okay, I'll explain. There's a few ways that you can do it. There's a few sites now. Okay, African Ancestry is very good. Okay, and African Ancestry is very, very good. But there are others, okay? There are others. So Wayne Denny said, me and my Canadian friends are definitely planning to invest and develop our motherland. Oh, wonderful. I'm so happy. I am so happy. And I'm also going to say congratulations to everybody that invested in a Serenity Estate. Well done. Absolutely well done to all of you. Okay. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. I am hoping to launch Serenity 2. So if you are wanting to have a beautiful, beautiful piece of land, which is, and I'm going to try and do some larger plots this time, okay? So 50 by 50, which is large, 50 meters by 50 meters. I have to, oh, that reminds me, someone asked me to find out the feet, and I completely forgot, and also to send a map, okay? Silky, I just remembered, I'm sorry, okay? Okay, so yes, so I'll try and do that this afternoon, if not tomorrow. So yes, so it's very important that you do that. So we are hoping to establish Serenity 2, okay, and Serenity 2 is also Kartong. Kartong is a beautiful, beautiful location, very popular for tourism, especially for natural beauty sites. It was discovered by people from Guinea-Bissau over 450 years ago, if you want the history. And it's an amazing community, beautiful place. I think it's the most southern part where the Atlantic meets the Gambia, so it's very unique. It has beautiful rivers and beautiful beaches and is relatively untouched. And it's not the kind of place where you're going to go and see these Europeans basking with their, tops off in their mini shorts walking down the road. Okay, so it is very Gambian, which is beautiful, and I want to keep it that way, okay, because I want us to establish our own tourism in our own areas, okay, where we can, acclimatize and integrate in Gambian community, in African community, and I love my village life, so I wouldn't swap it for the world, okay. So that's excellent. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, Wayne, the deaf boss, thank you so much for that, because they will have you give us back everything they stole, valued in trillions. Absolutely, they're going to have to, They're going to absolutely have to, but we also have to claim it. We also have to get our own reparations, okay? Coming back to Africa for me, building my home for me, establishing my business for me, opening my shop for me, right? Having my business for me, okay? Was part of my reparations, okay? And I am hoping to, I shouldn't talk about it just yet because too many bad mind people. You're too bad mind, you're too bad mind. But I am working on something as we speak anyway, okay? So yeah, they have to, by force. I declare and decree by force. They are going to pay us our reparations. They're going to pay us our compensation. They had this compensation commission. We will have our own compensation commission. Yes, by force. They had their compensation commission as part of their Abolition of Slavery Act 1833. Yeah, so we will have our own Reparations Act 2026. Yeah, our own African Slavery Reparations Act 2026. And within that, we will have our own compensation commission. Yes. Okay, yes, we will. Okay, Mary Jane, how are you? Eleanor White was my great grandmother. You had a great grandmother called Eleanor too. Wow. Mine was Eleanor Wholeness. Okay. And on my father's side, my great grandfather was Augustus Morrison. So I've been doing some research into my family. It might be worthwhile you doing some research into yours also. Okay. So, and it's good because you can then, trace your family lineage, and you can also see the compensation that was paid by putting it into the database. I did put the database on the community page. If you want me to do it again, then I can do it again for you, okay? But do check the BlaXit community page. Thank you so much, okay? Okay, Wayne said, how about the Go for Mali covering? Exactly. That is our reparation. Okay, this is exactly carrying the so-called, royal carriage. I'm really sorry, I've missed quite a lot of comments, so I'm gonna have to go all the way back. So just bear with me, okay? I'm just scrolling. Thank you, Mod. I can see you're doing a great job there. Okay, removing lots of these people that don't want to. Kenneth, how are you? Hello and welcome, Kenneth. Central 22, how are you? Okay, Mohammed, how are you? Welcome, yeah? Thank you for joining. Okay, I've missed a lot of messages. Okay, so I'm just going to go through them. Okay, so I also got a question to answer that I have to answer this week, because I missed the question last week. They owe us. They do owe us. If you think they owe us, please come into the comment section and write they owe us. I want you to write they owe us, okay? I'm just reading comments. Okay. Okay, so Central 22, we was talking about the Windsor. So we were talking about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who was stripped of his title of prince, yeah, because of his behavior, his deviant behavior that has been going on for many, many years. And of course, the connection with the Epsteins. And how many of these other perverts are there? So many of them, including, I would like to see what's going to happen to the President of America and these files that he's also been mentioned in. So let's see, let's see if heads will really roll, okay? Because all of these so-called people that are supposed to be upstanding that are really deviants, Okay, we talked about deviancy at the beginning of the year. We talked a lot about sexual deviancy and what they're doing to our people in order to separate us, destroy our relationships, and pull us apart by over sexualizing, okay, and desensitizing homosexuality. We spoke about this. Okay, we spoke about this, desensitizing pedophilia, desensitizing a lot of deviant behavior. That is what they're doing. And you've got to remember that during slavery, the enslavement of our ancestors, there was a lot of sexual abuse. Okay, there was a lot of sexual abuse. In fact, there was one such man whose mother became pregnant by, she was an enslaved African lady, and she got pregnant by rape by her enslaver, and her son, I mean, he fought for us, okay? And I will tell you his story, actually. It's a very interesting story, because he also fought for, he was one of the first people to fight for reparations. I think that was in 1871. So don't think that this fight for reparations has just started now. They've been ignoring us purposefully because they don't want to pay up, okay? So yeah, he does still have his money, okay? He does still have his money, but at the end of the day, it has to be a concerted effort by everybody to say, yes, we are going to fight for reparations. Yes, we want reparations. You know, it's, you know, very hard when we become so integrated that we've forgotten who we are. And that is happening to us. We've become so integrated that we've forgotten who we are. And that's why I said, do your DNA test. Find out who you are. Find out where you come from. Remember who you are. We're trying to be that what we are not. Okay? So Wayne said, I visited the UK recently, and the question I have is, where is all the money? I don't see. Well, the thing is, it's a trick. Okay? We're the ones that are working for the money. We're the ones, you know, that are paying the royal family. This is the trick. That you're still enslaved. I don't care if you're white, British, English, you're still a slave. Okay? You're a slave to the system because you're still paying for a royal family, right? And especially us, okay? Us of African heritage that is born in England, born in America, born in any of the colonies, okay? We're still paying taxes to the people that are responsible for enslaving our ancestors. Like, make that make sense. Yeah? Where's the money? It's in their coffers. It's in the royal coffers. It's in all of those families. Okay? Kenneth said, dear Spirit, bless. I will bless the person on the other side of the screen. I pray for you, Kenneth. Okay? I said nothing but healing, loving energy. I'm sorry, I've got to drink some water. This tea's making me repeat. It's a very powerful herb. I can't remember what it's called. But it's very good at detoxing your whole system, your liver, your kidneys. And so you do it like once a month. Yeah. Clears your intestine, clears everything. So yeah, I'm sending love, loving and healing energy to you, Kenneth. Okay? Okay? I hope you receive it. Come back in the comments and let me know you received it. Mwah. Sending mwah, love to you. Okay. Okay, there's a lot of messages. Okay. So Wayne said that we should be using decentralized finances like cryptocurrencies. And also for me, I love cash. I love cash, you know, very important. And I do want to say a big thank you to anybody that has donated to BlaXit over the years. Okay, I know sometimes in my PayPal, I might get just, you know, a lovely small donation. I want to say thank you to Stephen, who has been my #1 donor on the on the Patreon. Okay, and I know I don't activate the Patreon. I haven't been active with the Patreon. I really didn't understand it. It was far too complicated for me. A little bit of a technophobe. So I do apologize, okay? But I do want to say thank you to Steve, because he has been one of our diehard contributors and donors to BlaXit. So I want to say thank you over the years to you. And if you do want to make a donation, make a donation to BlaXit, you can using BOP Collective. That's Be Our Power, BOP, yeah. BOP Collective, yeah, or Black Corporation Positive, yeah. BOP Collective at yahoo.com. So that's BOP Collective at yahoo.com. And you can make a donation to us via PayPal if you would like to do that, okay? So I'm just letting you know that you can, if you wish to, okay? Help to further the cause. I think that, like I said, we've got to fight this reparations thing, and I am talking about it because it's important. But I'd like to give a special greetings and hello to Liliani Resurrection. Hello. How are you? Yeah? How are you? I don't think we've had our talk yet. So do hit me up on our text line, which is via WhatsApp, +220 240 5273. And thank you to all of the well wishers for Cafre. Okay, all the texts that came in well wishing for Cafre on the text line, which is +220 240 5273. Thank you. He is making a speedy recovery, and hopefully we will be returning to school this coming week. Okay, so thank you. So Linda, greetings to you, Linda. Thank you for joining. Okay. The time is up, and they cannot stop what has already begun, yeah? Because we are all not asleep, says Wayne. Absolutely, okay? Al Pacino, how are you? I used to watch some gangster movie there, years back in the day. I'm telling you, Gina, it was hardcore. Yeah, Nyanjo, didn't get the name Nyanjo Warrior for no reason, okay? So North Eastern says, you have cowrie shells. Yes, I do. I love them. I love them so much. Not only that, it's very symbolic. Cowrie shells, I did a show on this, actually, if you can go back in time, if you remember, everybody. I did do a program about the symbolic reason for cowrie shells, also the fact of what cowrie shells were. And cowrie shells used to be currency, but also used in spiritual divination, especially if you're Ifa. If you're Ifa, cowrie shells have a lot of symbolic reasons and a connection to your divine and supreme creators. Okay, so thank you for noticing my hair. I appreciate you. Hassa says the Reparations Act 2026. I'm going to write this down, okay? Just give me a second, yeah? Hang on. Reparations Act 2026. Okay, so how are we going to get this Reparations Act 2026? Yeah? Who's Parliament? Okay? How are we going to get this? Because the thing is that we cannot, it looks like Burkina Faso is going to be the only way, because it is the most radical. So we've got to now approach President of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore. I think that's what we're going to have to do, because I think he's and also the leader of Mali and Niger, and maybe the Sahel, the whole Sahel coordination and association, because I think they're the ones that are bravest to put this together and to push forward with it and to get the other countries behind them. What do you think? We should approach Captain Ibrahim Traore and the other leaders of Niger, and I know their names, I don't know why I'm not saying them. Okay, what do you think? Okay. So Mo Nijai, yeah, says, thank you, sis, keep it up. in place. There's no place like home. You're right. You're right. You're right. Listen, there's no place like home. I'm so grateful that I am back in Africa. I am so grateful that I repatriated. I am so grateful to wake up here every single day. Trust me, I am so grateful. I feel honored. Yeah, I feel like, the Exodus. I know it's been prophesied in many different books, historically. And I do believe that the Exodus that has been prophesied is our return back to Africa. Okay? Okay, so Nate, is that Nation? Okay. Nation, all of them are deviants. Well, let me say, right? You have got a valid point. I remember reading, okay, a report. Many years ago, I worked as a residential social worker. And, I had my key child and everything. I'm going to tell you a story, okay? This is like off of subject just slightly, okay? So I worked as a key worker as well, okay, for a particular child who was a problem for me, okay? This little white boy, okay? And he kept disappearing. It was, being his key worker, he would jump out the window. They locked his windows. He would find his way out. Anyway, one day he came back with a brand new bike. And I was just like, what has this child been up to? I hope he hasn't stolen this bike. So, of course, I have to sit down and do a report. Every time he goes AWOL, I have to do a report, etc., etc. So anyway, this particular child, one day I decide that I'm going to follow him. Okay, because I want to see where he's going and what he's getting up to. So I followed him, okay, and he met up with, I'm not going to say who, okay, but let's just say he met up with a member of parliament. Okay, he met up with a member of parliament and went into a building, I think, which is called Dolphin House, okay? And he was being sexually abused, okay? He was being sexually abused. And when he came out, he was surprised to see me. So what I did was, he had a bag and he was so shocked he dropped the bag, and I picked up the bag. And when I picked up the bag, it had these things called poppers in them, okay? You know what I'm talking about, yeah, which are things which are used to relax certain body. And this child had this, and had to then take him to the hospital to go and be examined, okay? Anyway, it turned into a big hoo-ha, okay? But this was a member of parliament, a male member of parliament, who was abusing. Now, I had to sign a confidentiality agreement as part of the job, so that's why I can't reveal certain information, okay? But what I can say, right, is that this building that he went to, it was prevalent. And if you go and search up Dolphin Square, and if you find out the people that are actually members there, you will see some names that will make your socks drop off, okay? So this Epstein thing is not something that's new, okay? This deviant behavior is part of their culture. And that's why I said we have to carve out our own. We shouldn't follow them, okay? We should not follow them and not encourage our children to either. We have to have our own morals and values, okay? Very important, because the sexual abuse that happened during slavery, and from the butt breaking, and I didn't say, I said buck, okay? Okay, but it did sound like butts, but that's exactly what they were doing. But anyway, to the abuse to the children, very young children, okay, all the way going up. This happened to us during slavery, and we are owed compensation for this trauma. Okay, for this trauma. Some children were abused at such an age that they didn't make it. Okay, they died because of internal injuries, etc. Okay, this is the reality. This is the reality of slavery. They do not want you to know. Okay, they do not want you to know about. But it's just an absolute truth. Okay, so yes, the Reparations Act. Yes, they owe us. Okay, yes, they owe us. Okay, Nature said the so-called Renaissance was off of our backs. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely true. Okay. They were stuck in the dark ages for most of their existence. I said this last week that they were absolutely impoverished. Okay, they were absolutely impoverished. Okay, their whole claim to wealth, okay, growth and development in every sense has come from us. Even today on the community page, didn't you see how I showed from Roman numerals to more numerals? We're the ones that did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were still in Roman numerals. They didn't have the intellect. Okay, a proven fact. Proven fact. Okay, so let's say Global Black Man. Hi, Jane. How are you? Okay. No, you don't have to wait for me. Just send me a message. I see you, Liliani Resurrection. Just send me a message and we just hook up. Just wait for the time. Just tell me the time and I will make time. I always find time for you. Okay? The dislike button. Hang on. Okay, that's another topic altogether. I will talk to you about that because that's also Liberia is a complex. Is a complex issue, okay, and I'll talk to you about that. But I want to do, I want to cover the subject thoroughly. I don't want to just, talk from my own perspective. I would like to do some research because there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of combativeness that is being used, okay, so far as that was concerned. And when you go back to Marcus Garvey, and we have to go all the way back. You can't just discuss Liberia and then talk about it now. You have to look at it and also look at the fact that it was declared a repatriation location. Okay, so it was about our freedom, Liberia, freedom, liberation, Liberia. Okay, so Liliani Resurrection. Yes, those shells were currency and used in dancing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The dislike button says, I'm Lebanese. Should I pay or receive reparations? Okay, so if you're Lebanese, yeah, you should be able to work that out. Okay. But if you want to make a donation for reparations, yeah. It's bopcollective@yahoo.com via PayPal if you would like to start, for the reparations fund. Go ahead. Okay. So how are you? Okay, I kind of covered that already. So I'm just going to get back on topic. Thank you for your comments. I hope I covered them. I know last week I wasn't able to cover a lot because I went really deep into the communications, and it's very, very important that we do this because, like I said, I didn't get to say a lot because when we were talking about manumissions, okay. Now I'm just going back into subject. Manumissions was released from slavery by you buying your own slavery, okay? And people don't talk about manumissions enough, okay? Now, the problem was that with manumissions is that you are legal property, and that's why I say, about how they use the law and abuse the law and still abuse the law. Thank you for the hearts and thank you for the thumbs ups in the chats. I so appreciate and love you. Okay, this is a love frequency vibration, BlaXit. It's all about us loving each other and building each other up. Okay, and I was saying, okay, so we were legal property, as in i.e. literally legal property, and so that's why they had to create this act. So now they have to create another act, which has to be the Repatriation Act 2026, in order for us to get our compensation. They need to make another compensation commission. And I'm sure, because you see, what it is that many of the people that were involved in slavery, many of them were in Parliament. And so they were the ones that for so long was resisting the abolition of slavery and that's the reason why they agreed to pay themselves. Okay? They agreed to pay themselves. And I proved last week even that they were members of Parliament because they made their money and then got themselves into political power to make sure that they could preserve it. Okay? That's what they did. Okay? So that's the reason why it took so long until 1833, 1834. Okay? And so I was saying that the provision for compensation, okay, of those owners, right, of enslaved Africans, yeah, by the British taxpayer was for the loss of their property, okay? I'm going to remind you again that the provision that was made was for the enslavers, okay, which was paid for by the British taxpayer like myself, okay, up until 2000. In the letter from HRMC, it says 2014, 2015, who's picking, I should not have to pay any kind of taxes to pay compensation to people that enslaved my ancestors. And they need to make a fund, find a fund, create a fund they took this money. And when I show you the letter, you'll see where the funds came from, okay? Anyway, the Compensation Commission was the government's body established to evaluate the claims of the enslaved African owners and administer the distribution of the £20 million, which is now, like I said, £3,322,015,081. Yeah, the government had set aside to pay them off. Yeah, and this sum represented 40% of the total expenditure, government expenditure for 1824, which is why it was set aside and spread, okay? Because it turned out to be 40% of the whole government expenditure, so they could not actually afford it. So that shows you how much enslavement was, and that was only for 800,000 when, you know, there are reports of 12 million and 12.5 million Africans which actually went through slavery and, you know, were bought and sold through the slave trade, okay? And in fact, the enslaved, the enslaved, or the enslavers of the 46,000, okay, 46,000 enslavers, let me say that, 46,000 enslavers, right? They didn't include the manumissions, okay? They did not include the manumissions, okay? So when what would happen during manumission is that, for example, they would hire out enslaved Africans to other enslavers, and then they would give them a small amount of money for not running away. They would save this to pay for their own freedom or to pay for their children's freedom. There's a person called Venture Smith. I'll give you a name because I always like to talk with evidence, okay? A man called Venture Smith, right? And he worked side jobs, right, to earn money to buy his freedom. And then later, when he got freed, he did odd jobs, right, and used earnings to purchase the freedom of his own wife and children. And that is one that is logged. So don't let them tell you that it didn't happen, okay? Also, I went to the Charleston Museum online, and in the Charleston Museum online, you can check it for yourself. All of this research is available to you to check, okay? in the Charleston Museum, they actually have an advert and also have an actual thing there where they an article there where they show you where someone's bought their freedom and also how they hired out enslaved Africans. There's another lady called Elizabeth Keckley, and she saved money from work as a seamstress. So she used to make clothes for people, and that's how she was able to buy her freedom and her son's freedom. Okay, so the problem was with manumissions is that although they bought their freedom, they were still under the control, right, of the slave owner. Their freedom, they didn't buy their entire lack of control, because the slave owner was still able to call them to fulfill obligations on the plantation. So how is that free? So you might be paying not to live on the plantations, but when he wants you to come and sew a dress for his wife, you still have to come back and do it. Unpaid. So how is that? How is that freedom? You see the tricks. You see their tricks. They're tricksters. Okay, and they're going to try and do trickster moves with regard to reparations as well. Okay, and the thing is that manumissions wasn't very common because most people didn't have money. Most people that were enslaved did not have money. Most of them weren't lent out to other places. Okay, so it was the very few. It was the very few, and it was very difficult for them to earn any money at all. Okay, it was very, very difficult, and that was one of the things. Yeah. So there was a part of the article which I didn't finish last week. Okay, that I wanted to just talk about just briefly and just read, and it says the plantations in the Americas were dependent on large numbers of men and women to provide slave labor and children to be prepared as the future workforce. So I'm reading this, okay? So just so that you can see, I'm not making this up, okay? It's right here above the lady that's hanging, as I showed you last week, okay? I just want you to listen, okay, for one sec. So the plantations in the Americas were dependent on large numbers of men and women to provide slave labor and children to be prepared as the future workforce. In terms of sheer numbers, African people in the colonies outnumbers Europeans by a huge proportion. In Jamaica, for example, the ratio by 1775 was over 15 to 1 Africans. So we outnumbered them by 15 to 1, okay? However, sorry, I missed my place. The ratio was by 1775 over 15 to 1 Africans. However, they were not passive victims of enslavement. Control over such a resistant population could only be maintained by coercion to maintain plantation slavery. Its victims, men, women, and children, were subjected to a regime of terror. Terrorism. This is terrorism. They were subjected to a regime of terror, extreme and unacceptable brutality. You hear what he wrote? Extreme and unacceptable brutality. So why can't we get reparations? Why can't we get compensation for those people? Huh? Yeah, and the racism that we still have to endure today. The police brutality that we still have to endure today. Okay? And violence, physical and mental. That's right, because it was both physical and mental. And we're still attributed by the mental violence today. And some of us still the physical violence, okay? The techniques of control ranged from the subtle to the barbaric. Yeah, because they used to do things like whip your skin and then put hot Scotch pepper, vinegar, and lime juice and salt and put it on the skin after they whipped the skin off. That's how wicked they were. That's what they called the pickle. That's what they did in Jamaica. Okay? Individuals were stripped of their names. Yes, I was stripped of my African name. You may have been stripped of your African name and your African identity. Okay? Many of us were. I come to Africa and it's just like, wow, you know? Do you know who you are? Do you really know who you are? Okay? We were stripped of our names and we were given new European slave names. Okay? That's right. You know, tell me, what's your slave name? What's your slave name? Let's put it in the directory and have a look. What's your slave name? You can text me and we can do research online, okay? You can text me +220 240 5270. Okay? +220 240 5273. Sorry, I said 70, didn't I? I got distracted, sorry. +220 240 5273. And tell me, you know, let's do some research on what is the enslaved name that they gave us, okay? So watching the hawks, greetings, okay? So Wesson said lots of, yes, I don't dare. But a lot of indigenous people were given reparations and were also given tax breaks. We have not been given reparations. This is where the problem lies, okay? And the techniques of control range from subtle to barbaric. Individuals were stripped of their names and given new European slave names. Families and people from similar cultural groups were separated to break down all forms of identity and bonds. It was intentionally done. It is a wickedness. Absolutely wickedness. They destroyed families. And they wonder why today we're still affected by it. You know, flogging is not natural to us. We don't hit our children. It's something that came through slavery. Okay? Their barbaric acts were carried into today, into the same violence and wickedness that, you know, is happening today. You understand? We wouldn't need rules in schools against corporal punishment. They used to whoop. When I was in school in England, they still had the cane. They still had the slipper. They didn't understand that, you know, in order to, you know, educate, you don't need to violate. Because all they know is violence. Okay? So, you know, they separated, right, us to destroy and to break down all forms of identity and bonds. And bonds are so important, okay? Especially children. Can you imagine being forcibly separated from your child? Them taking your child out of your arms, your baby out of your arms to never you see that child again? And they want to say, sorry, sorry's not enough. Sorry's not enough, okay? They want to, the use of African languages, yeah, and music was prohibited. They wouldn't even let you speak your own language. They wouldn't even let you knock a drum. You understand? Yeah? Adult men arriving from Africa were seasoned. Okay? Wayne said, USA is in huge debt. Greetings, watching the hawk. How are you? Yeah. Wayne said, hence the rebellion in Jamaica, Haiti, yes, especially Haiti, yeah, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and many countries, yeah, they didn't record. Absolutely, okay. Hi, Flying Taco. How are you? Okay, let's fight for those reparations. Thank you. Liliani Resurrection said, true. why they immigrated the Kingdom of Hawaii. They were removed slavery before any country in the world. Tell us about that. You did mention that in your email. Tell us more, because we circumvented the globe, and it's very important for people to realize that. Even when I started talking about this, I was talking about the fact that there were Africans in London even before this who were traders and had business. But they don't want you to think that, because they want to give you a misinformed impression of us. We were, entrepreneurs. We were businessmen. Many. In fact, one of the richest men in the world is Mansa Musa. Okay. Who's being censored? Why do you say that? Okay, the reparations is the opportunity to raise your future generations to a better place. Absolutely, absolutely. Our warriors in Jamaica, the Maroons and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, were called the Garafunas. Yes, I read about that. Okay, so I was saying that, where was I? I was saying that children, okay, yes, sorry. So I was saying that music and language, use of African language and music was prohibited, okay? Adult men arriving from Africa were seasoned. Seasoned. I just know about seasoning meat. Can you imagine? Seasoned. This is what they did, seasoned. That is subjected to an intense period of harsh labor and physical punishment. That's how wicked they were. Yeah, in an attempt to make them easier to control. And they haven't stopped. That's why they put us in their misguided education systems, to make us easier to control. That's why they make, anger's not, anger's not a good emotion. We're being psyoped, I swear. Listen, anger in the appropriate place is the right emotion. Okay, when used effectively for your progress, right? When used effectively as a motivating factor. Okay, anger doesn't always equate to violence. Anger can be because you're not happy with your situation. You're not happy with, I got angry about racism. That's why I left. I got angry. And I'm glad I got angry. Okay? Because I used it as to propel me. I'm not saying using it in a negative way. I use it in a positive way to propel me back to Africa. Okay? So anyway, this is what they did in an attempt to make them easier to control, because it's all about control for them. Everything is about control. And that's why when we're going for reparations, we have to take control, and we have to have financial control of certain things, and we have to work together effectively. Okay, there's always going to be black shots. Okay, people coming in to infiltrate. You understand? And they'll come in the weirdest way. I remember, like with me, when I had a situation, there was a woman, okay, and I didn't know she was a junkie. Okay, I didn't know that she had mental health issues. I didn't know she had sexual issues. Okay, let's just say that. I didn't know that she had, severe personality disorder. I did not know. I didn't know she was a junkie. I didn't know she was an alcoholic. I did not know. I just saw someone who was in trouble, who went out on social media and appealed for help after saying that, they were a victim of a crime. And me being me, thought, okay, I'll come and help, only to open, Pandora's box to an absolute she-devil. The worst of all kind. I had to even, take it, legal. And this person went on to even do further terror, not only, infiltrate inside my family, infiltrate inside my marriage, infiltrate inside my home, but to go online to then go and try and inflict even more damage, to character assassinate. And, you know, only to later find out that my lawyer that was working on the case said to me, oh, the person's a information agent. I'm like, what? Doesn't this person work for the government, the information agent? So they will try and infiltrate even what, you know, our attempts for reparations, but we have to be prepared for this. Okay, now I've got more discernment. Now I've got more identity. I've got more of an idea, I should say, about the identity of people like this. You know, these Cointrol Pro black shots. But it was a black shot. It's a black shot. You understand? But I didn't know at the time because, you know, I went with my heart and not my head. Okay. So yeah, it did. It propelled me. Yeah. It propelled me. Hi, Nathan. How are you, hon? You good? Okay, let me read your comments. So, so we have to, exam said, Zero Waste said, we have to build a world that gives good people reparations, teaching them the truth, grow the healthy foods, and also no tolerance for the wicked, evil, cruel behavior. Very cruel, wicked behavior. Very cruel, wicked behavior. Watching the Hawk said, no reparations for the weak. Yeah, black people need to take this to heart. Yeah, no, listen, your reparations has to be paid in Africa. Okay, this is it. This commission and this compensation has to be paid in Africa. You're coming to Africa. That money is not going back to the West. So if you want to stay in the West, don't apply for reparations. That's the way I see it. Because you're not going to go back and refill their coffers. No. No. Yeah? So, damn, you're quite the cougar. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, Nathan. Okay, so keep talking. I'm about to come. Okay, yes, hurry up and come to Africa. It's a very beautiful place, Nathan. Okay, come to Africa. It's a very, very beautiful place. Yeah. Liliani Resurrection says, Julia, what you faced in the UK propelled you to where you are today. As an example for those in the diaspora, that returning is possible. Absolutely possible. You know. Absolutely possible. I'm telling you, right? I absolutely will implore everybody to do the same thing. I wish I'd done it earlier. That's the only thing. And while land is still reasonable, you know, do it. You know, we've even had pay-as-you-go plots as well. So for, you know, to make it bite-sized and easy for you to do, okay? Moderator. Liliani Resurrection's called in for you. Yeah. Okay, so Zero Waste said that lawyers are stealing the money from the lawsuits here in Canada in their reparation suits. So that's something that we need to be mindful of, okay? Okay. That's something that we need to be mindful of. Very, very important. Okay, so I'll finish this and then I will go back because you know the development from being enslaved, okay, was then developed into high-level racism. Okay, and I did say I wanted to talk about many of the vehicles of racism. I did want to talk about microaggressions. I did want to talk about and maybe we'll talk about them next week because some people don't even recognize some levels of racism. So I want to talk about conscious and unconscious bias, okay, and how it affects us. Some people don't know about halo and horn. Some people don't know about a lot of the different, you know, vehicles that they keep within psychology or they keep within HR, you know, and they keep it within specialized little areas so you won't know about it. Okay, but we're here to share that information so, you know, we can make this claim for racism, high-level racism, okay, direct and indirect, okay, very, very important. So I'm just going to finish off by talking about the harsh labor and physical punishment in an attempt to make the new Africans that just landed easier to control. Women were subjected to physical punishment, terrible physical punishment, okay, and regular sexual abuse, okay. There it is. It's not a lie. Okay, children were only considered children. Guess when a child stopped being a child on the plantation? What age? Tell me in the comment section. Tell me, at what age do you think a child stopped being considered a child during slavery? Tell me. Tell me in the comment section. Give me a number. Give me a number. What age? Okay, she said 2. So, Sutana, how are you? The star. Hi, dear. Yeah, love your hairstyle, dear. Thank you, sweetness. Okay, Empress Makita, how are you? Okay, 110. No, the age was 7. 2's too young. The age was 7 years old. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I hope you understand. They stopped being considered a child, which means that they were considered to be open season for sexual predators and also able to work on the plantation. Age 7. Tell me, what 7-year-old is going to go to work from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. in today's society? This is why we have to fight for reparations. This is what they did to our children. And this is why we have this concept about hard working, while the rich get rich from, using their brain. Okay? Yeah, it is sick. It is sick, you're right. So children were only considered as such until the age of 7, when they were put to work. They were herding livestock, they were weeding or other comparatively engaging work in the fields, okay? Similar work was given to the elderly and the infirm. So even when you was old, you never got a break. Even if you was disabled, even if you were sick, you never got a break. This is why we have to fight for reparations. Okay? Them wicked people, them. Wicked till cruelty. They couldn't be wicked no more. And they have to pay. We mustn't let them get away with this. How can you put a child of 7? How can you consider a child of 7 old enough to work, old enough to have, sexual just don't let me think about it. Don't let me think about it. Right? How? This is sick. And sick people and old people. And remember that the life expectancy of an enslaved African was just 10 years. So bad was the cruelty and torture. So bad was the terror. They're terrorists. No, slave owners, they're terrorists. They're kidnappers. They're criminals. In spite of the vigorous repression of African cultural practices, a new African Caribbean culture emerged, weaving together elements of African Caribbean and European culture. The enslaved forged a new identity and commonality, which not only helped them to survive, but also strengthened resistance. Okay, so we always resisted. Okay, we always resisted. Okay, we have never been worthless. Okay, and they try to support the rationale for slavery. Okay, they try to. Okay, and this is how, I want to talk about this quickly before I go. It says, from the 17th century onwards, the supporters of slavery attempted to produce a scientific rationale for their exploitation of people from Africa and created a terminology to accompany it. The pseudoscience of racism had begun. Okay? I hope you understand that. I'm going to read it one more time. Okay, so from the 17th century onwards, the supporters of slavery attempted to produce a scientific rationale for their exploitation of people from Africa and created a terminology to accompany it. The pseudoscience of racism had begun. we are much less comfortable about words like Negro. I'm not comfortable with that word. I'm not comfortable with it. I know that some people use it, but I'm not comfortable with it, okay? Which were common in usage in the 18th century, okay? So Negro was a word that was common usage in the 18th century, of course, because if you look at Marcus Garvey, he had the Universal Negro Improvement Association, okay? And which were distorted into the derogatory term and offensive term NIG. You know what I'm talking, the N word, okay? And it's a derogatory and offensive term. So why are we using it? Why are we using it? Are we so backwards? I'm so sorry, I've got to say it. Are we so backwards and stupid that we would let them use a derogatory term on us, okay? We didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice. That we would now go and use on ourselves? Why? Why? Is the psychological entrenchment of self-hatred so deep that the worst words that they could use for us were used on ourselves? This is why we need reparations, because there's a lot of psychological work that needs to be done, a lot of unpacking, a lot of unpicking, a lot of counseling, a lot of trauma. This is all use of the N-word, and even listening to other cultures using it, even listening to it, you know, slowly seep into Africa. It hurts my spirit and my soul, because that word is a word that should be banned on media, banned in music. It should be banned as a derogatory term, just the same as the Jews have their derogatory terms, and they have their own league, right? They have their own league, Anti-Defamation League. We should have our own African Anti-Defamation League, because the N-word should be a word, a defamous word that should not be used. Okay? It should not be used. And it says, in plantation society, some terms were introduced by defenders of slavery to define racialized categories, which imposed a skin color coded hierarchy of entitlement to human rights. For example, the mulatto, okay, which is another derogatory term, okay? But I wanted to share about this man, because he's really supposed to be talked about, and he was a so-called mulatto, okay, and his name was Robert Winterburn, okay. This is what he looked like. He was born on the plantation. His mother was raped, right, okay, and he is the byproduct of that rape. And then he basically was one of the first outspoken arbiters for reparations, okay? He was one of the first arbiters. So we're going back to, let's say, was it 1831? I think that's when he died, actually. He died obscurely. No one knows how he died. He kept getting locked up in prison for being outspoken. And one of his famous speeches was here, and I'll just read it to you. So this is in, this was published in hang on, writing's really small. Looks like 1817, okay? But he died in 1831 in obscurity, okay? And he published this because he had a newspaper, an article and newspapers, which he used in order to talk about the abolition of slavery, okay? He says, I, Robert Winterburn, charge all, I, Robert Winterburn, I just want to make sure I've got his name right, charge all potentates, governors and governments of every description with felony, who does wicked violate the sacred rights of man by force of arms, or otherwise seizing the persons of men and dragging them from their native country. Wow, that's powerful. And selling their stolen persons and generations. I'm sorry, it really hit me for a second. I just had to sit there and swallow. You know, I, Robert Wedderburn, charge all potentates, governors, and governments of every description. Can you imagine saying this in 18, was it? 1817. Can you imagine a man, right, whose mother, was born on a plantation, was raped by the slave owner, and that is who he is, okay? And this is what he's saying: I, Robert Wedderburn, charge all potentates, governors, and governments of every description with felony, who does wickedly violate the sacred rights of man and woman, I'm going to add, by force of arms or otherwise, seizing the persons of men and women, I'll add, and dragging them from their native country and selling their stolen persons and generations. Wedderburn demands, in the name of God, in the name of natural justice, and in the name of humanity, that all slaves be set free. I'm going to read that again. It's giving me goose pimples. I'm so sorry. You know what? It's like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this. Yeah. He says, Wedderburn demands, in the name of God, in the name of natural justice, and in the name of humanity, that all slaves be set free, for innocent individuals are entitled to the protection of civil society, and that all stealers, receivers, and oppressors in this base practice be... He said to be forgiven. I'm not sure about that though. Be forgiven, as the crime commenced in the days of ignorance. They're still ignorant, my dear. Yeah. 1817 till now, they haven't changed. Okay. Ignorance, and is now exposed in the enlightened age of reason. Are we in the enlightened age of reason? From then till now. He also wrote another speech commanding reparations, which I'm trying to find. But he was known as one of the first outwardly spoken reparationists whose mother was enslaved, and he was born as a victim of rape. Okay? As a victim of rape, the Surviving Men series. Okay? Oh, welcome to BlaXit. This is a BlaXit live. We're just wrapping up now, actually. So you've joined us at the last minute. BlaXit is a channel dedicated from your exit from the West back to the best. That's why it's called BlaXit. For all black peoples, if you are black male or if you are black female, you are an African. And it is for our exit from the West back to the best. And that is what it's about. It's our exodus back to Africa. I'm a repatriationist specialist. My name is Netjo Kajabi, aka Juliet. I'm also the CEO and founder of BlaXit, the movement of us finally making it back to our ancestral homes. Okay? That's right. Okay? It's high time for us, yeah, as Africans in and outside of Africa to unite. It's time for us to get our reparations. I've been talking about the AU decade of reparations from 2026, okay, to 2036. In these 10 years, it is upon us. We have a responsibility to ensure, I'm going to come up close to you now, to ensure that we get our reparations. Okay? You joined late. Okay. Well, listen, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I would really appreciate it. As you know, BlaXit's shadow banned, BlaXit's demonetized. Okay, but you still, if you keep, watching us and watching the channel, it does help us to attract more people to the channel and increase our views. Okay. I just want to say that thank you, Surviving Man series, right? I want to thank you for joining us. Very important that you gave us your time, your energy, your contributions, your words, your energy today. Your energy is the most important thing. In fact, energy is the most finite and most valuable resource on the planet. It was our energy that they used in order to make the West what the West is today. It's our energy on those cane plantations, which is why we're talking about reparations. It was our energy that they used in the Caribbean, our energy that they used in Charleston, you know, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, okay, on all the plantations there in America, okay, in the Caribbean, all over the world, okay. It's our energy, okay. It's our energy. Okay, why? Because I refuse to do something. Okay, I put out a program called The Price of Freedom, the price we pay for freedom, and I refuse to take it down. That's why I'm demonetized. It got 480,000 views over that, over 480,000 views, and they wanted me to take it down, and so I want the message to go out because it's more important. Okay, if I was just doing this for the money, ultimately I'm doing this because I love my people, okay? I love you, and I want you to love yourself because, this whole thing of slavery, they were fighting for us. Part of the conditioning and controlling, right, was for us not to love ourselves, okay? Was to destroy family units, to destroy love, to destroy respect, okay? To over-sexualize us. That's why, some of these, I'm sorry to say, new generational people that I hear when they talk about relationships, I get really despondent, I hear people saying, oh, I'm not ready for commitment. Like, listen, what do you want to do? Use people out? Have you got no self-respect, no dignity, no honor? We have to come back to that. Okay, we have to come back to that. We have to come back to understanding each other. We have to come back to compromise. Not all of this horrible, I'm sorry to say, but there is too much of this narcissism in the world. It is like a demon that's jumping from person to person, making men become bisexual and happy about talking about it. I'm absolutely disgusted. Okay, absolutely disgusted. And one of the reasons why I came back to live in Africa, came back to live in Gambia, is because it's unlawful here. It's illegal. Okay, it's illegal. I'm sick of their nastiness. Okay, I'm sick of men that are promiscuous. Okay, who do not honor and respect women. Okay. I see women chasing men. Women aren't supposed to chase men. Men are supposed to pursue women. Things are all gone crazy, upside down, inside out. And you know why? I told you, slavery, butt breaking. Okay? These things have a history. Women that were damaged, okay, because of rape. They didn't feel even affection for their children because they were so neutralized. I will talk about this another time because I'm going into 2 hours. I'm very passionate about this, and I personally will forgive when we receive reparations. Okay? Yes, I think that's the appropriate time. So that's the one thing I disagree with him. I do not believe the time of reason is upon us because they are not reasonable. If they were reasonable, they would compromise, and we would have our compensation in the same way that they gave. Let me say the figure again, okay? And not to mention the manumism. We talked about manumission, okay? We talked about the manumission, not to mention about the manumissions, the people that had to buy their way out of slavery and they still weren't free. Not to talk about the 3,322,000,000 £15,081 they received in compensation as enslavers for the 800,000 enslaved Africans that were enslaved at that time of 1833 and 1834. That was paid to 46,000 enslavers. I rest my case. It's time for reparations. I've talked about it. I've shown you the sugar. I said, stop eating it. It's time for us to boycott. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in because, you know, we have to prepare. We have to prepare because after December, we start. That is the decade for reparations. So now it's time for us to start our plans, start our campaigns, okay, and start our strategies. Reparations isn't just about money, it's about restoration. The damage done to our people till today. It's about the racism that we suffer today. Reparations isn't just financial. Reparations is also about colonies that were taken, lands that were taken, territory that was taken, you know, resources, natural resources being exploited until today. Look what's happening in West Papua till today. Slavery didn't go away, it just changed form. They changed the white hoods for a police uniform, for a judge uniform, for a school teacher's, you know, apparel. Okay? So I just got to, you know, sometimes, like I said, don't forget the T71s. I will post those other letters. Don't forget to look up at Venture Smith and also Elizabeth Kirkley. Okay, they were examples of manumism. Okay, sorry, I keep saying manumism, manumission. Okay, manumission. And so, you know, Reparations Act 2026, and we have our own compensation commission. Okay, it's high time. I think we you know, need to have maybe a delegation where we can sit down, you know, and all discuss this. Maybe we have a huge conference on it. Okay, we know that it's been a year for reparations, truth and justice for us through the AU, and now it's going into the decade. Okay, I don't think we produced enough in the year, so I think it's time for us to produce something in the decade. I've seen the CARICOM 10 points. I've seen a lot of the other organisations, and I support them wholly. And I think that yes, you know, these are some of the definite steps for reparatory justice. Very important, but it has to start. And it has to start with us, okay? Each and every one of us have to take responsibility for being a part of the process, okay? Whether it's writing a letter to the families that I mentioned last week, you know, I can even find out, do some research and find out, you know, who they are now, where their businesses are now, and get their emails, get their information. So we can start, you know, a campaign, a demand campaign, okay? Okay, and start, you know, legal cases, because it's time. And I know it's their law. That's the reason why African nations have to come together and have their own Kwango court, their own tribunals, okay? It's very, very important, because if we're relying on their law, their Supreme Court, I don't think that they're going to find justice in our favour, because they're always going to be looking after their own interests, okay? They really are. Anyway, without further ado, it's been a great, great program, and you've made great comments. I'll say hello to all of you who contributed. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And don't forget the interference still in Africa, in Sudan and Congo, etc. Okay? So it hasn't stopped. Yeah? Many of our people are still oppressed. They use their corporations, they use their money, they use their royal families. They use every tool, every trick in the book. And we have to now start to use our brains our intellect, our experience, okay, and our history and knowledge of what they've done in order to get what we are owed, okay? Didn't say what we deserve, what we're owed, because we are owed the same way that they said that those slave owners were owed, okay, and they could pay them, the same way we are owed, and we are going to get paid, okay? We are going to get paid. And when I say paid, it's not just financial, okay? Restoration, okay? Restoration, restitution, okay? And there has to be consequences. So I want you to think about the consequences and get back to me. Think about the consequences and put it in a text line for me. Think about what should the consequences be. For Mara Sock, yeah? You know what? Can I just say, some of them didn't. This is another myth, okay? This is another myth. We have to stop this myth. Senegal is still here. Gambia is still here. Mali is still here, okay? I'm living in an empire. It's just called by a different name. When they decided to, look at me, I said I was going, I'm now going into Berlin Conference of 1888, right? But, you know, we'll go into that next week, okay? Yeah? Okay. But no, the empires are still here. They're just trying to make you think that they're not, but they are still here. It's empires just by, you know, within a form of division, but the empires are still here. Okay, believe you me, okay? Okay, I love you so much, okay? Remember, one Africa, one people, one nation, one unity, one union, one love, okay? We can do this. Okay, just want to say a big thanks to Team BlaXit as always. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for being there for me. And thank you always for investing, you know, in BlaXit. It's very, very important. Thank you to everybody, like I said, who makes donations. Oh gosh, I didn't answer the question. Oh, 1 minute. Let me just look up the question. My bum's a bit numb. Hang on. Let me look at the question. I wrote it down, I wrote it down, I wrote it down, I wrote it down. Okay, there it is. So, someone asked me, how did I overcome people's challenges about me coming to Africa to live? Okay, so it was quite an intense question. And I understand that some people are going to give you pushback, okay? They will, but I've got one thing to say, yeah? A lot of us surround ourselves with the wrong people, okay? If that person is going to gossip, slander, and not have good intentions for you, or have cloaked good intentions under bad intentions, for you, you have to be discerning and think, why are they giving you pushback in the first place? It's fake concern. If they're saying negative things and trying to, you know, put a dampener on your plans to come back to Africa, then maybe you need to not surround yourself with them. It's like being in a relationship. You're in a wonderful relationship. You're happy. You've met the woman of your dreams. This woman is loving. She's kind. She's good to you. She makes you happy. And then you tell some close friends, maybe even you're friends with an ex who you broke up with, or your friends, your male friends who you're close to, and even family members, and this woman's giving to you, she's elevating your status, she's elevating your mind, and you're doing the same. You know, you're giving to each other, you're building each other, you love each other, and then, you know, your best friend starts to, you know, say derogatory things, or starts to, go online and say, oh, I saw her DM, and it looks like she's talking to another man, and start to basically tell lies. This woman's always been faithful, always been loyal. She's never gone out and slept with anybody on him or anything. But friends start to give that impression. Ex-girlfriends start to say, oh, I don't think she's the right person for you. Why? Because of jealousy. You understand? And they'll do the same thing on Africa. You'll have family members even try and push you away and even, push you back onto your other girlfriend because they don't want you to elevate. They want you to stay locked into that debt. They want you to stay locked into that mortgage, okay? And then get locked into that, £648,000 of debt like I would have been if I didn't come and build my house. I bought my house and everything for less than $50,000, and I would have been locked into a mortgage and had to have paid on top of that £648,000. So, for the equivalent, it was a 5-bedroom house there, 5-bedroom house here. So, what is the life? I would rather be debt-free and live in freedom and peace and harmony and tranquility with my people. Okay? I would rather live with my people. Okay? That's what's important to me. Yeah? Living where I can feel comfortable. Living where I can feel free, living where I can learn my people's language, where I can engage and learn cultures and learn food and engage and help to bring other people home, help to hopefully inspire you and motivate you. What's a typical day like for me? Wonderful. Lovely. Before when my children would get sick and I was in England, I used to panic about having time off of work. I'm telling you, I can actually be a mom. I can actually be a woman. So sometimes the answer to that question is sometimes people don't always have your best interests at heart, but they disguise it as good intentions, but it's not. And you have to be discerning to know right from wrong. You have to know that that person is pushing you in the wrong direction. Okay, because why? They can't really show you good examples or the lies. You didn't investigate the lies. Rather than, go and talk to people that are here living. Here, come and talk to me even. I will tell you the truth. I will tell you the truth. I'm not going to tell you a lie. Okay, so come and I will show you and I will tell you what my life is like. I will tell you what I did when I first came here. I will tell you, about the house we rented. I'll tell you. Okay, I will share my experience with you because it's important to me that you know these things. Okay, I will tell you about the mistakes I made as well. Okay, I will share them with you. So, like I said, some people are just bad mind and they do not want what's best for you because their family doesn't, not all kinfolk, not all skinfolk are your folk, and not all kinfolk are your folk, not all your family want what's best for you. Sometimes they want your control, especially if you're contributing to that family, whether it's financially in other ways. They want to keep that. So therefore, they don't want you to change your life. They want to keep you in that stronghold. They don't want you to develop. They don't want you to expand. And they certainly don't want you to do better than them. Okay, they don't want you to do better than them, and they don't want to let go of you. So it's their own selfish reasons why they're holding on to you. So I would say use your discernment. Okay, keep your business, keep your plans to yourself. Okay, until you're having your leaving, doing your everything is sold, everything is done, and you've got your flight plan booked, and they can't really dissuade you. Okay, and they can't influence you. Keep it to yourself. It's just like when you find that you've got a good woman, okay, they will steer you down the road to a Jezebel, a woman who's sleeping around, a woman who just wants to use you out because they want to keep you in that situation. They don't want you to be happy because some people are desperately unhappy and they just don't want you to be happy. Some people are desperately jealous and envious, and you have to know it's the truth. I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it myself. I saw some things online about me. I had to sit there and I had to crack up laughing at how ridiculous they were. Do you know what I mean? It was just so stupid. Like, why would you waste your time as a grown woman? who has got intelligence and intellect to waste your time even thinking about my life. Get out and get your own, form your own. You don't have children, you're jealous, go and, make your own. You're jealous, you don't, have a family, go and make your own. You don't have a husband, make your own. You don't have someone who loves you, find someone who does. But don't let people dissuade you from Africa, telling you stories and things to be scared of, because that's what they do, they create fear. You don't need to be scared of coming to Africa. Believe you me, you do not need to be scared. You do not need to have fear in your heart, okay? The crime rate in England is far higher than the crime rate here, okay? She's broke every single platform. Thank you. Clamp it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Fear is a killer. Absolutely. Yeah. Sandra Horn. Yeah. Liliani. Jasra. Jasra, greetings. How are you? You in the Gambia? How are you, my darling? I also want to say hello to a lovely designer. Yeah, Ziza, if you remember, he's having an event next year, so I'm going to be covering it. Ziza's a great designer, Gambian designer, and I bumped into him, okay? I had to go and get some stuff for my son, and I bumped into him, so he'll be having a huge event. He told me about it, and hopefully BlaXit will be covering it. So we'll be bringing you some fashion and some design, some of these lovely African fabrics, which I love. So no one can break a platform, darling, okay? Because no one can break you personally. It's all about your strength, your inner strength, okay? Lies can't break you. The truth will reveal you, okay? The truth will always reveal you. And, people like that, you've got to see who's paying them and why, okay? If they're going out there, right, trying to, defame and to character assassinate everybody that's in the Pan-African community, then you've got to see that they've got an agenda, and don't watch it. Just don't feed. I don't watch negativity. Do you know what I do in the morning? I'll just share with you. I'm going to go now, but I'm going to share with you a tip that I do in the morning, okay? So in the morning, before I get up, before I even open my eyes, I do not reach for my phone. I don't do anything like that. I have like 10 minutes of just silence and stillness. Okay, I don't speak to anyone. Okay, I lay in silence and stillness. Okay, after that 10 minutes of silence and stillness, right, I then go and I do maybe 5 to 10 minutes of positive affirmations to get my head in the right space. I couldn't do this in England because it was too much stress, yeah? But it's something that I've been able to do in Africa that has really changed my life. And so 10 minutes of affirmations, 5 to 10 minutes is ample, okay? You can even do the affirmations 3 times a day. It's only like 5 minutes out of your day. After that, I read, for 10 minutes or a chapter of a positive or inspirational book, okay? I read a chapter of an inspirational book. This is all before I even pick up my phone, okay? It's before I pick up my phone. After I do that, I write down my goals and what I want to achieve for the day. It takes 5 minutes, yeah? And I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, okay? 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I write down my goals and what I have to achieve for that day, like a small to-do list. And then I write down, for me, my spiritual goal, okay, my divine goal, my divinity, which is me to be of service to my people. What am I going to do that's going to be of service to my people today? Okay. After I've done that, I do 10 minutes of a bit of dancing or jiggery-jig, get myself together, a bit of yoga, a bit of movement, okay, get myself together, and then, have my shower, etc., have a bath, whatever. Get myself together for the day. And then I don't watch the news. I don't watch anything negative, right? Then I get to work, We'll get my son, prepared and whatever for school, whatever. The day goes on, Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you because a lot of us are diving into negativity first thing in the morning and it's polluting our minds. Okay. It's polluting our minds. So, 10 minutes of silence. Okay. 10 minutes of affirmations or 5 minutes of affirmations, 10 or 5 minutes of affirmations. Okay. 10 minutes of reading a book, an inspiring book that's going to inspire you. Okay, a positive book, whether it's a biography or it's a book, teaching you how to manifest prosperity or, make your business better, whatever. Those 10 minutes, right? And just getting that information, getting that knowledge, okay? Only 10 minutes of reading is the chapter, do you know what I mean? And then after you finish that, just write what your goals are. Okay, what your goals are for that particular day. Okay, write down what you want to plan to do as well, not just what your goals are, but what your future plans are. Okay, and then also just write 3 things that you're grateful for, and then write down something that you want to be of service to. Okay, divine service for, right? Okay, and then what do? Bam. You after you've done what you're grateful for, you just have 10 minutes of vigorous movement exercise, whatever floats your boat. I just do a little bit of yoga and some cardio, like for 10 minutes, and then on with my day. Okay, so I don't know if that would help the person that wrote the question, because I can see that you're here. I hope that helps, to also clarify your goals and keep you focused. But those people, if you think they've got a negative mindset and they're not really for your own good, okay, then I would say keep them at arm's length and keep distance, because negative people can bring you down. Okay, people who don't want your highest good can bring you down. People that are going to tell lies about Africa, because like one of the things that, you mentioned was the fact that people were saying things that weren't true about Africa in order to convince you not to come. Like broad lies, like, oh, they don't have running water and stuff like that. No, these are, lies. Obviously I have running water. Do you know what I mean? Come on now, I'm drinking it from my borehole. So, I must have water. I've got internet. I'm on the phone. I'm in Africa. Come on. Do you know what I mean? And so, there's technology, there's everything here. So don't let people fool you, okay? Trying to make you think that, you're going to go out there and suffer and whatever. No, okay? It's not the case if you plan well, okay? If you plan well. And I'm here to help you with those plans, okay? And I have been here to help you with those plans, and I'll continue to help you with those plans. So I'd like to thank everybody that's just joined the stream. Thank you so much for joining today. Today was a very good program. I think Gambia does have the lovely water, I must confess. Don't forget about what I said about African ancestry. We started with that. Ethnocide is a way in which we can make our claim for reparations. Okay. So, the fact that they took our identity from us, okay? Justice for all Africans, right? Home and abroad. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for joining the chat. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. Thank you if you could share as well. Share these lives, okay? I will be putting up content. I know I'm a little bit slow. I am going to be putting up one about APS, my APS win. So I'll be putting that up this week on the main channel. I did want to talk about that, okay, and in line with my morning routine. But we'll talk about that another time. But in the meantime, I will bid you goodbye. But I want to thank you so much for joining me. Without you, we wouldn't have a life. Thank you for all your comments, okay? And I'll be back again next Sunday, 3 p.m. GMT, okay? 3 p.m. GMT. Thank you to our mod, Cafre, and thank you to everybody that's commented. Thank you to Bobby Dazzler, who's just joined us. Thank you to everybody that's joined, and to those haters, I have to bid you farewell as well. Thank you for going, and please do not come back, because you're just spoiling it for the rest of us, okay? This is a high vibrational channel, okay? High frequency, high power, high love, okay? All right, and remember that you are divine beings. Do not let anyone fool you, okay? Always see yourself in the best light possible, okay? I love you. Okay. I love you all. Take care.